Good morning, you guys. Today is Monday and it is October 21st. And I haven't really been on here because I told y'all I had to work. But hey, good to see everyone. Life has been a whirlwind really since Europe. My 2-week trip to Europe, and then I had like maybe 3 days off, and then I worked 3 12-hour shifts, and now this is my second day off after the 12-hour shift. So when I work 3 12s, I can't do anything the next day. I'm just dead. Like, don't even take off my pajamas. So today I got up, bathed, got dressed and everything, and I'm ready to get back in the camera. So you know what? Today I'm going to talk about really a hard topic. It's something I've been wanting to talk to on my channel because I knew that my 20th anniversary was coming up, and for months I've been wanting to talk. I had it on my list. I have a list of topics to talk about on my channel, and one of them was marriage, because I have been married for 20 years. Y'all may have seen my video where my husband took me to the Grand Ole Opry. That was my request. And we are still celebrating our 20th year anniversary. And so I wanted to talk though about marriage, because people see, ooh, 20 years, oh, that's so great, and you know, and it is, but that's not all of the story. Like, you never know what people are going through, and people just assume a lot when they see you traveling and they see, you know, you and your mate going different places and doing different things, and you know, taking pictures. And y'all, social media is deceiving. You cannot assume what anyone's life is like by looking at pictures on social media. It doesn't tell really any of the story that they have, right? So we have to really be careful about that. Like, and even getting jealous of people and coveting what people have and what they're doing and who they with and whatever, because you don't know their story. You don't know. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about, have a little story time about my marriage, and without getting too deep, without being disrespectful or anything to my husband. I wanted to talk about it now, but this is my channel and it's my story, and I want to tell my story, and I can do that without being disrespectful. But I want to, you know, on my channel, I hope to be able to help someone. You know, that's part of the purpose of me having a YouTube channel. It's a lot of reasons, but that's just one of them. Is like, if I can help somebody along the way, then that's what I'm going to do. So I just want to share a little bit about our story. So my husband and I, we met in 2002. So funny story, true story. We met at a grocery store in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Cub Foods, that's the main store that's there in Minnesota. And so I happened to be out that day, and I wanted to make this dish, this paella dish. And the dish calls for, if you ever had paella, it's a kind of a seafood rice dish, and it calls for clams. I had been all around the city looking for clams this particular day and couldn't find no clam. I wanted the real clams that come in a shell. And so I finally, this Saturday evening, found them at Cub Foods, which I never thought they would be there. I had been going to all these meat markets, seafood markets, specialty stores, and here they were at Cub Foods. So I found them, and they were in this package of 4. I can remember it like it was yesterday. They were in this package of 4, and they had these ugly, you know, like oyster, when you eat oysters in the restaurant, that ugly shell that they come in. And these clams, they were closed, and they had this hair, like seaweed stuff coming out of them. And I had the package of clams in my hand, and I was just looking at them like this, and someone came up behind me and said, "And what do you plan on doing with those?" And I turned around and it was my now husband. And so I was like, well, I planned on making this dish, and it called for clams, and I started telling him whatever. And so he said to me, you go to church, don't you? Because back then I was a lot more traditional than I am now. I didn't wear makeup, I didn't wear jewelry, I didn't wear pants, my elbows were covered, my knees were covered, my ankles were covered, so he was like, you go to church, don't you? And I said, yes, I do. And he was like, what church you go to? And I told him, and he was like, well, I'm Baptist. And so to make the long story short, I gave him my pastor's card, because I used to carry them. And I gave him my pastor's card, and I told him to, come out to service sometime. So he went on about his way. I went on about mine. Got my clams, whatever. I'm trying to think, was he in the deli section, or he was in, I can't remember that part, but there was something about a deli section involved in the story. And anyway, he saw me later on, and he was either in the deli section or I don't remember, but he said, why don't you, he said, I'm gonna give you my number, why don't you give me a call sometime? And I was like, okay. And so he gave me his number, and I remember being really impressed with the fact that he didn't really try to talk to me. Most guys, 90% of them ask you for your number, and I was really impressed. Well, I had not dated in 5 years, so it had been a long time since I dated, but I was really impressed with the fact that he offered his number and didn't ask me for mine. And I thought that was very gentlemanly. So he gave me his number and stuff, and went on about our way. And I remember I saw him again when I was checking out and he was checking out. And I remember having these thoughts in my head, which I won't share. But anyway, so I get home, and that night, my best friend at the time, who has now passed away, I was talking to her on the phone, and I told her I met this man at the store, and I told her the story and everything. And she said, well, did you call him? And I said, no. I said, I'm not gonna call him. And she was like, why you didn't call him? She said, that's why we don't bring people to the Lord, and because we don't witness and we don't follow up with people. And I was like, yeah, you're right. And so again, like I said, this was a Saturday, and so Saturday night I didn't call him, Sunday I didn't call him, Monday I didn't call him. Finally Tuesday I decided to call him. So I called, we talked and we talked and we talked and we talked. That next day, Wednesday, was our Bible class night. He came to Bible class. Actually, we weren't having Bible class at our regular church. Our whole church was going to visit another church for their anniversary. And so, but I was in school at the time working on my bachelor's degree, and I don't know, I just wasn't aware of the fact that we weren't at our church. So I had invited James to come to our church for Bible class that Wednesday, and I pull up in my car. There's nobody at the church. He pulls up in his car, and I'm like, I don't know what's going on. And so I made a few calls and found out that they were over at this other church. And so that was our first date. We drove our cars and went over to this other church, and that was what I consider was our first date. It was United Faith Pentecostal, I remember. And so the rest is history, y'all. So after that, he started coming to church. He would be there for every service. He ended up getting baptized in Jesus' name, and he began to become a churchgoer, and we began to date, and it was just all wonderful, right? So fast forward 21 months later, we ended up getting married. He had proposed, the ring and all that. We ended up getting married. At the time, neither one of us had any money, and we had a very small wedding. We had what do they call it now? A candlelight wedding at the church, and we only invited 25 people, and it was very nice. And then the next day, was because we got married on Saturday night at the church, and then that Sunday the pastor announced that we had gotten married and that there would be cake downstairs. So that's how we did that. And then we went on a honeymoon to Key West, which is why we're going back to Key West in a couple weeks, because we bought the timeshare there, I told y'all, and you know, we always go back there. And so definitely we're going for our 20th anniversary. So now, sounds like a beautiful story, and it was. However, my husband and I would say, you know, we used to have little spats and stuff when we were dating. I didn't think a lot of it. I really didn't think of a lot of it at the time, and we never lived together until we got married. Once we started living together after we got married, that's when everything became really real. And so it was rough, y'all, not gonna lie. It was really rough. We had a really rough time in our marriage, because y'all know, when you put like two people together, the thing I didn't really realize, our backgrounds were so different. And that's not to say it can't work if you come from different backgrounds, but I didn't consider a lot of things. And that's one of the things I did not consider. My husband was from a different background than me as far as like his life. My husband grew up in the streets. I grew up in I didn't grow up in the streets. I went to Catholic schools from kindergarten all the way through 12th grade. I was an only child. He was from a family of 3. He was the only boy, and he was a middle child. All these things, you know, play out in it. And then, you know, the type of home that he grew up in was totally different than the type of home I grew up in. My home was always quiet. It was just us 3. My father did not believe in having no bunch of men come into the house. There, you know, we didn't have company a lot. We had I have very conservative parents, and they were very quiet, and they had a really good marriage. And I grew up in a really nice home, but it was a quiet home, and my husband didn't grow up in that type of home. And so you put the two together, and it was, you know, we were like this. It was, we had some rough times. And then also you have to consider blended families. I brought 2 children because I've been married previously. And so I brought 2 children into the marriage. And then my son has a son, but his son lived with his mom in another state. And so here he is, you know, having to raise my children, who, when we married, our children were, I want to say, let's see, my daughter was 4 when we got together. So she had to be 6, which means my son was 13 when we got married. That's rough. That's a lot that I had brought into the marriage, and that he had to deal with, and that he had to navigate. And so we were trying to navigate that, the blended family thing, and that's tough. And then we're trying to, you know, get to know each other as far as living together. That looked totally different than when we were dating, right? So there was that. And so we had some rough times, y'all. We used to argue, not gonna lie. I'm just being transparent. From the time, from even our honeymoon, we had a rough time. From our honeymoon, I don't know what it was, but we just had a rough time. And so we were in church, and the church that I was attending at the time, they did not have marriage counseling. And by the way, we did not do premarital counseling. And y'all, if you are single and listening to this and you're considering getting married, please do premarital counseling, because in premarital counseling, you know, these things come up. You know, the pastor or whoever is counseling you is going to ask you questions about how you plan on raising kids, or how, you know, what type of home did you grow up in? Well, what type of home did you grow up in? Well, what number child are you? Well, how about you? Well, I'm an only child. And they'll discuss all those differences in the places where you may conflict, you know. And so And sometimes in premarital counseling, it can be suggested that maybe you don't even get married. You know what I'm saying? And so, but anyway, the church we were in at the time, they did not have, wonderful church, but they did not have premarital counseling or any kind of marriage ministry, nothing. So we were just on our own. We was just out there, y'all. And we was going through all this stuff, and I don't know, we did not ever talk to the pastor about it. And so it got so bad, actually, that, well, yeah, there was a lot that had transpired, but suffice it to say, at one point, I started visiting this other church, which was down the street from where I lived, and I started visiting there because this church, it was one of our sister churches that's down the street from me. They were offering this, they had this Bible college within the church, and one of the classes they were offering was on church administration, which is where my gifting area is at, or maybe I'm not gifted, I don't know, but that's what my passion is. One of my passions is church administration, and they were offering this class in the evenings by one of the pastors in the church. And so I signed up for this class, and I started going to the class, and I knew people over at that church. And one day I saw a flyer about marriage ministry, and it caught my eye, and I'm like, they have a marriage ministry over here? And I knew I needed, and nobody really knew what my husband and I were going through. And so I started being involved in their marriage ministry. We got connected with this couple, the Newtalls. We got connected with them. They started counseling us. And I mean, to the point, they even came to our house one time. I remember on a New Year's Day or something like that. They were so wonderful. They blessed us so much in the beginning of our marriage. And that's where it kind of all started. So we started counseling with them. And then I started, and then stuff was going on at my church too, politically. And I started visiting this church where I was involved in their marriage ministry and the counseling and stuff. And I started visiting, well, fast forward, we decided to join that church because we had started visiting, you know, every now and then. We would sit in the back, you know how you do. We would sit in the back and stuff, and we would visit. And I was involved now in their classes because this was a very progressive church. This is a church I ended up being in for 14 years before I relocated. I still consider it my church, Shiloh Temple International Ministries in Minneapolis. So, and the pastor there is Bishop Richard D. Howe Jr. Love him to death. Still consider him my pastor. But anyway, my husband and I started kind of visiting there, but we were still going to our other church. And so it came to a point where we had to make a decision. We decided to leave the other church, and we went over there. And so we stayed involved in the marriage ministry until we left. So, but we still had problems, right? We were working on it all the time. We ended up, over the years, one of their Sunday school classes was a marriage class. We went to that for 14 years. We went to the marriage class. They had any type of seminars. If they had any type of retreats, we were there. Even when they had retreats in the city, we would go. When I tell y'all, we worked on our marriage. We have been working on it since day one. And we really worked at it. We really, really did. And it was hard. And, you know, things would seem like they were getting better, and then they would go left again. And it was just like this roller coaster. And, you know, we're raising kids, and we got a house. My husband is a truck driver. He's gone. You know, he's not able to be in church as much. But whenever he's home, he's in church. But it felt to me like every time he would come home after being gone weeks, like it would be starting all over again. It was just rough. You know, being married to a truck driver is not easy. It was just rough. And when I tell you, we had to work on that thing. And so yeah, we continue to console with ministers, with couples, attend classes, attend retreats, seminars, overnights, all the things. And fast forward, so my son, he went away to college, I want to say in 2013 maybe, but my daughter was still home. And my son went to college late. He didn't go as soon as he graduated. Matter of fact, he graduated from high school in 2009. He didn't go away to college till 2013. Then 3 years later in 2016, my daughter went away to college. So now we're empty nesters. The buffer is gone. There's no kids in the house. There's just me and him to deal with each other. There's no buffer. There's no distraction. There's just me and him. And y'all, everything fell apart. My daughter left in August really. She left in end of August, middle of August. We went to Florida, drove to, my husband, helped set her up and everything. We had a wonderful time in Florida. She went to Bethune-Cookman and came back home. By mid-October, we were separated. Yes, we separated. Things were bad. They were rough. Like I say, the buffer was gone and we just had each other to deal with each other. Okay, y'all, I literally, y'all, oh my gosh, that was Jehovah's Witness just stopped by. It's 10:19 a.m. I don't know if I've ever had a Jehovah's Witness come to my house, and turns out she lives right across the street. She's the lady that I'm always waving at. Okay, anyway, I'm back. I actually turned the camera off to eat breakfast that I had started cooking. Y'all, remember I told you about this in one of my vlogs from Trader Joe's, the pumpkin pancakes or waffle mix? So good. So good. Very good. Okay, so let me finish the story. So I actually told things a little out of order. So in 2014, yeah, so my son went away to college in 2013. In 2014, things were rough, and I actually filed for divorce. I filed the papers. We went together and had them notarized, and somehow, I don't even remember the details of it, but somehow we decided to not divorce and to keep trying to make the marriage work. And so we did. We tried. Fast forward to 2016, that's when my daughter went to college, and that's when things fell apart. And we were separated for 2.5 years, y'all. For the first 6 months of the separation, I did not talk to my husband at all. By this time, I forgot to say, so when my son went away to school, I also decided to go back to get my master's degree. So I was in graduate school. This was a lot going on. I was in graduate school. And again, 2016, when my daughter left, 2 months later, the marriage just fell apart, and we separated for 2.5 years. And like I said, I didn't speak to him for 6 months until it was my graduation. And my mom was in town for the graduation. My dad didn't come, but my mother was there, and she was asking me about James, and I was in such a happy place because I was graduating. I had enrolled in a 2-year program. I ended up extending it to 3 years. And it ended up taking me 5 years to finish because life was just going on. Things at home were not good. Kids, college, and all the things. And it was just I had a rough time in graduate school. I actually regret even going because it was just rough all the way through, all 5 years. So finally I'm graduating. I finished the paper, the paper that I had to do and all the things, and I had done the it's not an interview, I forgot what it's called, when you have to go before the board and present your paper and all that. I did all the things and I was finally graduating, y'all. And so it was a happy time for me, and my mom had asked me about James, and so I invited him to come to the graduation. So I will never forget that day ever. I remember, so I had not seen him still, and I remember I had done invitations, and I know I had gave him, I don't remember if I mailed it, you know, he had his own place. I can't remember if I mailed it or gave it to him, but I had sent out invitations to people. And prior to that, I don't think I had seen him. And I remember sitting down on the floor in the auditorium. We were all, you know, on the floor lined up, whatever, sitting down. And I remember thinking, I know he's here. And I was looking for him. I was looking because I knew he was there. And I was, you know, trying not to turn around and stuff, but I knew he was there somewhere. And so I kind of looked and I didn't see him. Auditorium wasn't all that awfully huge. And all of a sudden I looked up to the right, to the balcony, and there he was. I saw him, and he was with our dear friend and minister, Elder Ramon. And I saw him up there, and I remember feeling so happy that he was there. I remember that feeling. I was just almost like a relief that he was there. And I was really, really happy to see him. And so when the graduation got over, and I came out, you know, to greet all my guests and everything, here he was with 24 red roses. And if I remember, I'm going to put a picture of us with those roses, or me, us or me, if I can find them still on my phone. And they were just the most beautiful flowers. And it was just, that was one of the greatest days of my life. It was such a great day. So anyway, from that moment on, we started dating again. We started seeing each other again. So from 2000, that was in May of 2017. Was that right? Yes, that was in May of 2017. And we started dating again, and with stipulations in place, he moved back in May of 2018, a year later. So we ended up being like living separate for 2.5 years. And so since we've been back together, it has definitely been better. It has not been perfect, but it has definitely been better. In 2019, a year later from that, I decided I wanted to retire from my job because I tried out counseling, being a therapist. That's what I went to school for. I tried it out for a year, didn't like it, and decided to retire from my job of 30 years. And so we moved to Florida. That's what I wanted to do. I'm always dragging him somewhere. And so we moved to Florida, and in November of 2019, January, COVID hit. So we lived in Florida for 2 years. I lived really in isolation for 2 years because I knew nobody where we lived. We moved to Bradenton, Florida, where they're having all the hurricanes right now, where they had them rather last week. And yeah, so we were there. And as far as our marriage goes, it definitely has been better since we moved from Minnesota. I don't know why, but excuse me, but it has definitely been better. Maybe because I don't have as much stress on my life, I don't know, but it's definitely been better. And in 2021, after dealing with COVID and all that, we decided to move to Nashville, here closer to family. My parents were living in Memphis at the time, and my son lived here. So my daughter, she was with us the whole time. And so my husband and my daughter and I all moved to Nashville. So now we're all together. So I just want to say that marriage is hard. I don't care what nobody say. Marriage is, it's just not for the weak. It's not easy. And we are doing so much better now. It's not perfect. I don't know who has a perfect marriage. It's not perfect, but it's and there's some things that I would like to be in place that are still not, but what are you gonna do? But I'm committed to the marriage. It would be so easy, because I notice a lot of the young people, the millennials, the Gen Zs and them, if the marriage ain't working, they gone. They out of there. People's getting divorced left and right. Especially younger people. Younger people don't stick and stay anymore. They don't, nobody want to sacrifice. Nobody want to work on nothing. People just throw their marriage away. I'm not saying all people, because there are some situations where, you need to get out. But especially if there's abuse involved and that kind of thing. But I think what has made me I was definitely willing to get divorced. If it wasn't for my husband, we probably would be divorced. But he never gave up. He never ever gave up. Not gonna lie, I was ready to throw in the towel so many times and was gonna throw it in, but he is not giving up. And I didn't want to give up either. I said my vows before the Lord. We stood at the altar and we said our vows, and that means something to me. That right there is the main reason that I have not gotten divorced. I have other reasons that I have not, but that is one of the main ones, is that I'm committed. I'm committed to my vows. I'm committed to the promise that I made unto the Lord. And so although I've had my weak days, weak moments where I'm like, I'm out of here, whatever. But at the end of the day, I'm here. We're still here. We're still together. Marriage, like I say, to me, is hard. I remember in my old church, they used to say marriage is not hard. And I beg to differ. I disagree. I think it is difficult. I think it's challenging, whatever word you want to use. I feel like with marriage, you have to work at it and work on it every single day. You can't stop dating. You can't stop, doing nice things for each other. You, at least for me, it has meant forgiving every day, forgiving each other every day, and starting anew. And people just aren't willing to do that anymore. People is just like, I'm out of here, But I just thank and praise God. God has been good to us. We've had a lot of people praying for us. We've had a lot of people who have counseled with us, spent time with us. We have worked really hard at staying married, both of us. We have really worked at it. And like I say, it's not perfect, but we still here. We're still together. And I just thank God. I just give him really all the glory for it, because if it wasn't for him, and by the way, and if you don't have God in your life, I don't even know how folks is making it without him. I just don't even know. I don't even know how you even have a hope if you don't have Jesus Christ in your life, because I pray all the time, just in my mind, saying a prayer, God help me. I say that all the time in my mind, God help me. You know what I mean? Asking God to help me to shut my mouth, asking God, just to help me all the time. I'm always praying that. So anyway, I've been very long, didn't mean to go this long, but I just wanted to share that with you. And I hope that I have encouraged somebody to hang in there, to stick and stay. if you can, if you're able. You know, sometimes you might have to take a break. Like when we had our separation, separating does not mean dating other people. That's not what separation is. Separating means taking time away, a break, if you will, from each other to work on yourself and to get yourself together, always with the goal in mind to get back with your spouse. And so it doesn't mean that you're free, although you know you are in a sense. Like I ain't gonna lie, I enjoyed not having to cook, not having nobody to answer to, not having to say I'm coming home here or I'm not coming home there, and all of that. I enjoyed that part. I did, because I'm an only child, I'm an introvert, I'm a loner kind of, and you know, and I enjoy my own company. I'm good with being by myself. And so, you know, I missed him, but I'm good being by myself. And so anyway, yeah. So yeah, I just wanted to share that with y'all, and I hope this has encouraged someone to stick and stay in your marriage. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments and let me know your thoughts. And yeah, it's hard out here. Financial problems, you know, it's hard to make it. That causes a lot of strain in the marriage when you're going through in your finances. You got kids, you trying to make it, you working, he there, you here. It's just a lot. It just be a lot, but it can work. It can work. It can work. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. I'm gonna end it here. I'm not sure if I'm gonna make this a video by itself or put it with my weekly vlog. So, but anyway, either way, I hope you watched it until the end, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye.
I'm still a fan even though it's salty. Hate to see you once around the brand, are you happy?